scariest big-budget movie I've seen in a long time. And the climactic scene where Manhattan is threatened by this really unexpected 20-story high monster has one of the funniest single shots I've ever seen. And I would tell you what that shot was, but it would spoil that moment of wonderful surprise, so my lips are sealed.
It comes out from another planet, I think, is basically the whole idea. The idea does. I think it's very funny, too, and I think you built it. It is the surprise, low-budget hit with no stars that becomes a movie that changes the movie. All of a sudden, Hollywood executives, as well as other filmmakers, these executives are caught by surprise as they read the box office figures in Weekly Variety, and they say to themselves, oh, so that's what the public wants. And in 1978, this happened. Everyone was caught by surprise when a little college comedy called Animal House literally went through the roof and became the best-selling movie comedy of all time. The key to Animal House? Non-stop goofiness and the madcap antics in a supporting role of Saturday Night Live's John Belushi.
This situation absolutely requires that a really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part.
We're just the guys to do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it!
After Belushi helped make millions, Bill Murray, another Saturday Night Liver, took the Animal House silliness to summer camp in a little picture called Meatballs. With Meatballs becoming a hit, Bill Murray took the Animal House antics a second time now to the Army in Stripes. Now, the formula in all these films is pretty much the same. Young people going nuts. Young people upsetting established institutions. And the ones that became big hits also had a player in there, a Murray or a Belushi, who made young moviegoers laugh the moment they appeared on the screen. They were both not big stars, though, when they made these pictures. I really think that these films are a throwback to the films of the Marx Brothers, with all the rules being broken, and with Belushi or Murray taking Groucho's role as the ringleader for all the craziness. But the real importance of the Animal House picture is that it was the first movie to reveal the size of the teenage movie-going audience, an audience that was absolutely enormous.
And there was another way that these movies changed the movies, too, because when is the teenage audience ready to go to the movies? In the summertime. And amazingly, until about 10 years ago, until the success of a movie called Jaws, the major studios threw away the summertime. In the summertime, you went to the drive-ins, you saw monster pictures that were made for $3. Then suddenly they realized they could make $50 and $60 and $70 million with a summer picture. Then Animal House came along and it showed them they could do it without stars, just with a lot of madcap antics, as you said. And now every summer there's a big comedy. For example, next summer it's going to be Ghostbusters with Bill Murray.
Right, and Dan Aykroyd, another Saturday Night Live veteran. I must say that in this group of films that have come in the backwater of Animal House, there have been a lot of funny ones, and genuinely funny ones, and these films have an unpretentiousness that I find kind of appealing.
I like the fact that you mentioned the Marx Brothers, because these films take risks, and yet they don't take them at a level in which they can't experiment. They take risks at a low level. They're low-budget pictures. They take these kids out of television satirical shows like Second City TV and so forth, and they improvise as they go along in the same way that the Marx Brothers did.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Are you connected with Camp Mohawk?
Well, I think so. I'm the program director, Jerry Aldini.
Well, how do you justify $1,000 a week?
Well, we have some special programs. We're doing Shakespeare in the Round again this year, of course. Our political roundtable, Henry Kissinger will appear. Yasser Arafat is going to come out, spend a weekend with the kids, just rap with them.
That's amazing.
And the kids wanted animals, so this year each camper will stalk and kill his own bear at our private wildlife preserve.
Are you sure the children can hack that?
We'll see. Hey, you have a good summer, too, huh?
Saturday Night Live's Bill Murray is a wacky summer camp counselor in Meatballs.
One of this summer's biggest box office hits, though, is Meatballs, which is a movie aimed squarely at younger teenagers. I think it's pretty much on target for that audience. It stars Bill Murray from TV's Saturday Night Live as a senior counselor at a wacky summer camp where Murray spends most of his time trying to make out with another counselor.
Tripper, is there something seriously wrong with you?
Roxanne, I have what doctors call very active glands. You're the only person I've told. My folks don't even know.
Well, maybe you can have surgery without them knowing.
Oh, heck with surgery. Let's wrestle.
No, let's not, okay, Tripper? No. Tripper, no.
Your atomic skull crusher. Oh!
Let's not do this, okay, Tripper? Let's just stop right now, all right? Okay?
Shark-infested waters!
Don't do that, Trevor! No! Trevor, no! Oh, Trevor, let's stop now, okay? No, let's...
I'm sorry about that blouse thing, but somebody had to tell you.
Trevor, get off me right now or I start screaming.
Oh, at the count of 3, I guess, huh? 1, 2...
Help! Help me! Somebody! Help! Get off me! Morty!
What the hell's going on here?
Oh, Morty!
Oh.
Morty! Morty! Oh. She attacked me!
Give me a break, Harrison.
Oh, she came at me like an animal!
That was Kate Lynch there attacking the helpless Bill Murray. The summer camp in Meatballs is a nonstop epidemic of practical jokes, making out, cheating in the Camp Olympics, general chaos, and then there's a half-serious subplot involving a camper who's your standard, basic, shy little kid who looks up to the friendly counselor. Murray gives him self-confidence during a game of blackjack.
Annie up. What do you do in the off-season?
Go to school. 20.
20? What are you, some sort of madman? Is that what they teach you in that school of yours? 20? I'll see you're 20. Hope you walk out of here with nothing.
I think I like history the most. It's fun to imagine that I'm in some of their time, in a different place.
Shut up and look at your cards.
Blackjack.
Murray creates kind of a nice feeling there, sort of a gruff sweetness, you might almost call it. Meatballs is a pleasant, cheerful, unassuming summer entertainment and has its heart in the right place, and Bill Murray does a good job of holding things together. He has a confident, comic touch, kind of a nice, warm quality I think kids appreciate. You like this guy, you know, watching the movie. And so for the right audiences, which is to say for younger audiences, I think Meatballs is a lot of fun.
Well, you're right. Murray does have a nice quality in the picture. I just was hoping this film would have been more like Animal House, sort of Animal House Takes a Vacation. I expected sort of a rougher, more lusty kind of comedy, and this film doesn't have that. So if you're going to see Animal House, this isn't the picture that they've made. It's a lighter piece, and
well,
that's my disagreement.
Okay, fine. It's not Animal House, but it's doing a lot of business. It's one of the biggest hits this summer because kids are telling each other about it. When you get word of mouth like that, it must indicate in some way that they like what they see. So I think for younger kids, once again, I'll say, this is a good movie.
It's better than the Disney features, at
Yeah,
least.
it's better than watching some dragon fly around on Saturday afternoon.
Okay,
Well, ever since National Lampoon's Animal House went through the roof at the box office 3 years ago, the summertime has become the season for at least one irreverent, gross-out, anarchistic, slapstick comedy. Last summer it was Airplane, and this summer it's Stripes, which is a very funny film that could almost be retitled National Lampoon's Animal Army. It stars Saturday Night Live veteran Bill Murray as the biggest misfit in an outfit full of misfits, a platoon of draftees who train themselves after their drill sergeant is injured. In this scene, they horrify the Army brass as they pass in review.
Boom. Boom. All right. Boom. Platoon, let's do a little singing and smoke. Boom. 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 Play, play. Play, play. Feel great. Feel great. Wine women. Wine women. Hold on. Hold on.
I see. So am I to understand that you men completed your training on your own?
That's the fact, Jack. That's the fact, Jack.
The audience loves that scene, you know, up the establishment. Summertime movies like Stripes usually contain a lot of sex and raunchy humor, but you might ask, you might even wonder, how can Stripes find sex in basic training? Well, it does, all right. Bill Murray falls in love with P.J. Souls, who plays a military policewoman who strays pretty far from her beat. Here they are inside the home of the base commander who's out of town for the weekend.
Who's your friend? Who's your buddy? I am, all right. You're crazy about me, aren't you?
No.
Kind of like an orgy at Baskin and Robbins. Stripes goes on to an hilarious climax involving the Army's newest secret weapon, which is, believe it or not, a nuclear-powered, computerized, fully armored recreational vehicle. Some of the movie's early basic training situations seem like a male version of Goldie Hawn's Private Benjamin, but that's okay. These are both good movies, the two movies that make a great double feature someday. Stripes is a real breakthrough for Bill Murray, who had a big hit called Meatballs that really didn't do justice to his talent a couple of years ago, but this one does. and Murray is surrounded by a cast of great improvisational character actors, people who can somehow preserve the dramatic impact of a scene, even while they're going for the big laugh, and there are a lot of big laughs in Stripes.
Well, I liked it too. Maybe not quite as much as you seem to like it, but I enjoyed it very much. And I think what I enjoyed is finding, in addition to the obvious gags, finding sort of a comic attitude in Bill Murray that I think is sort of interesting. And that is, he seems to be always putting on how seriously people take themselves. The whole seriousness of romance in that last scene, the seriousness of the army. He just goes right at the people. It's different than Private Benjamin, where she was the ignorant one.
Yeah.
Here, he's the smart one, laughing at them.
We might also mention Harold Ramis, who co-wrote this movie. He was
Right.
also one of the authors of National Lampoon's Animal House, and he's the co-star here, the guy with the big glasses.
That's the
in
guy.
training scene.
Yeah, that's the guy who, when you were talking about character actor, who's believable yet funny. He's great because he doesn't look like a movie star at all.
And he listens to all this solemn army propaganda with a real solemn look, and you realize he doesn't believe a single word of it.
Yeah, it's a very good, enjoyable comedy for the summer.
What the hell are you doing?
Sorry. I'm sorry. We thought you were someone else. Successful test.
Ghostbusters on the job. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis as psychic phenomenon exterminators in one of the new movies we'll be reviewing this week, Ghostbusters. And joining me in the balcony is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago.
We told. So I do like the film. I wish more break dancing had been shot better in this film.
If there had been more breakdancing shot better, I would have given it a thumbs up. Next at the movies, Ghostbusters, sort of a paranormal pest control service.
Dana. Can I talk to Dana?
There is no Dana, only Sue.
What a lovely singing voice.
It's named Ghostbusters, and it's a funny combination of two kinds of movies that usually don't work very well together. On the one hand, this is a big-budget special effects picture with lots of sensational, earth-shaking adventures in it. And on the other hand, it's a very funny movie to listen to because of the sly and understated dialogue. The characters in this movie say some very funny things. In this scene, Sigourney Weaver becomes a potential customer for the Ghostbusters when she realizes that her apartment has become inhabited by a strange form of psychic energy that likes its eggs sunny side up.
And then I slammed the refrigerator door and I left. That was 2 days ago, and I haven't been back to my apartment.
Generally, you don't see that kind of behavior in a major appliance. What do you think it was?
Well, if I knew what it was, I wouldn't be here.
Egon, what do you think?
She's telling the truth. At least she thinks she is.
Well, of course I'm telling the truth. Who would make up a story like that?
Some are people who just want attention. Others are just nutballs who come in off the street.
You know what it could be? Past life experience intruding on present time.
Could be race memory stored in the collective unconscious. I wouldn't rule out clairvoyance or telepathic contact either.
Sorry. I don't believe in any of those things.
Well, that's all right. I don't either. But there are some things we do, standard procedures in a case like this, which often bring us results.
Well, I could go to Hall of Records and check out the structural details in the building.
Tell you what, I'll take Miss Barrett back to her apartment and check her out. I'll go check out Miss Barrett's apartment. Okay?
I love that line about the major appliance.
Right.
The Ghostbusters there were Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis. And one of the best things about this movie is the low-key, cynical dialogue that they exchange in a scene like that. I love listening to this movie. They sound like a bunch of old college roommates who are all in on the same joke. And that National Lampoon, Second City, Saturday Night Live style dialogue works surprisingly well with the movie's big special effects scenes like this one, where the Ghostbusters approach a psychic whirlpool that threatens Manhattan.
She's a dog.
Usually when a movie has a lot of special effects, there's the danger that the characters will look like they're simply standing around posing in front of the special effects. Not in Ghostbusters. This is one of the slyest, wittiest big-budget movies I've seen in a long time, and the climactic scene where Manhattan is threatened by this really unexpected 20-story high monster has one of the funniest single shots I've ever seen, and I would tell you what that shot was, but it would spoil that moment of wonderful surprise, so my lips are sealed.
It comes out from another planet, I think, is basically the whole idea. The idea does. I think it's very funny, too, and I think you broke the film right into its two parts, the special effects story and this personal, whimsical dialogue between these guys, particularly led by Bill Murray. I like the second part better than the special effects stuff. I think it worked less well than you did. Murray, to me, is very funny. He's the leavening in this whole film, throwing these asides in constantly. This woman turns into a sort of a fire-breathing, lusty character, and he walks in and he says to her, that's a new look for you. You know, that's very, very funny stuff. And another critic, David Denby, New York Magazine, compared his role in this picture, quite properly, I thought, to W.C. Fields or Groucho Marx, who's always walking around their films saying, you know, winking at the audience. And Bill Murray provides that function here, and he does it beautifully. Well, it's a Bill Murray movie, and I loved it more than the special effects. Okay, I love Bill Murray. What about Harold Ramis, who is not very well known? He's directed a couple of movies. This is his first big movie as an actor. He's the one who he's the wise guy. He's the one who always has the long explanation. And the deadpan way that he delivers that is great. Aykroyd plays a basic Aykroyd character. These three guys who go on, like the Marx Brothers, if necessary, and make 6 more movies. They only should. The person will make it work. It'll be Bill Murray in Groucho's role.
Chicks dig me because I rarely wear underwear, and when I do, it's usually something unusual.
For example, I think he's really a modern-day Groucho Marx. Roger, you may differ. What do you think?
I have a theory, too, Gene, and I think my theory is illustrated in Murray's first really big hit at the box office, which was a comedy named Stripes, which came out in 1981 and involved some of the same people that he later teamed up with on Ghostbusters. Ivan Reitman, the director, and Harold Ramis, who in both movies was the co-star and the co-writer. Murray and Ramis played a couple of strange guys who enlist in the Army just for the heck of it in Stripes, and they bring their own brand of craziness to military service. Here's the scene where platoon leader Murray delivers his troops.
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
The secret of Stripes, I think, was the secret of a lot of Bill Murray's comedy, especially when he's involved with Harold Ramis, who was the guy we saw briefly in Stripes with the clear frames on his glasses. The secret is sort of a laid-back, restrained attitude toward the sheer anarchy that's breaking loose all around these guys. Murray pretends to respect authority. He pretends to be disciplined and reasonable and responsible. And meanwhile, this guy has a total irreverence for the establishment and all of its works and pomps. And another thing, and this may remind you of Groucho too, he never plays dumb. We always get the idea he has the situation completely figured out. He's just sitting back and waiting to make his move.
No, that's absolutely right. The intelligence is very similar. I mentioned earlier in the show that I do think of Bill Murray as sort of a contemporary Groucho Marx, and his latest comedy, Ghostbusters, is a perfect example of that. In fact, you can think of the movie Ghostbusters as 3 guys, the Marx Brothers, Aykroyd, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Bill Murray, all chasing spirits. Bill Murray is asked for help in the picture from a pretty woman in the movie, Sigourney Weaver. He tries to help her get rid of ghosts in her apartment. Now watch how he throws in a lot of nonchalant Groucho wisecracks. You can paint your own mustache on him and give him a cigar if you want. He really doesn't need it.
And then I slammed the refrigerator door and I left. That was 2 days ago, and I haven't been back to my apartment.
Generally, you don't see that kind of behavior in a major appliance. What do you think it was?
Well, if I knew what it was, I wouldn't be here.
Egon, what do you think?
She's telling the truth. At least she thinks she is.
Well, of course I'm telling the truth. Who would make up a story like that?
Some are people who just want attention. Others are just nutballs who come in off the street.
You know what it could be? Past life experience intruding on present time.
Could be erased memory stored in the collective unconscious. I wouldn't rule out clairvoyance or telepathic contact either.
Sorry. I don't believe in any of those things.
Well, that's all right. I don't either. But there are some things we do, standard procedures in a case like this, which often bring us results.
Well, I could go to Hall of Records and check out the structural details in the building.
Tell you what, I'll take Miss Barrett back to her apartment and check her out. I'll go check out Miss Barrett's apartment. Okay?
Okay.
I like the way he makes faces at the screen. Very good. He's very relaxed in this movie, but he's also winking at us saying, in effect, hey, look at me. I'm in this movie. Aren't movies fun? Wouldn't you like to be in this movie? Let's laugh at it all together. Bill Murray is very likable in a relaxed way in Ghostbusters. You know, it is one of the toughest moves to make in a movie, which is to look at the camera, to look into the audience's eyes, and not ruin the film. Very few people can do it. Woody Allen sometimes, Bill Murray a lot of times. We like Bill Murray so much he can get away with that. We like Groucho Marx. They're both the wittiest person in their movies. Not handsome, but funny and wisecracking and sweet and bright. That's one secret of Bill. I like to call him this, Bill Groucho Murray.
Well, I wouldn't call him Bill Groucho Murray because I think that Bill Murray and Groucho Marx are total originals, really. I mean, he's not doing, you're not saying that he's doing a Groucho Marx act.
I'm saying he's irreverent in a similar kind of way.
That in other words, he's kind of the loose cannon below ship in society, and wherever he rolls...
And he doesn't play by standard comic movie actors' lines. He's not a Bob Hope, you know, with lines in the movies. He's...
It's his attitude we're smiling at. And
Yes.
I think he's going to be one of those comedians like Jack Benny was. You're going to mention an older generation. Benny could just be there, and because we knew what his character was, he could just look at something, we would find that funny. It's the same with Bill Murray. We know his attitude. He's figuring it out. He knows the angle. He knows what these people are up to, and he knows what his priorities are and how he's going to get his way, and he just a little smile, and we can intuit all that, and that makes him a natural comic actor, which is very rare.
It's true. And this Razor's Edge, which is a serious film we're going to be talking about later, I saw his name came up on the credits and I started to smile. I couldn't help it. That's a big compliment.
It's the same thing with me the first time I saw him on the screen in Razor's Edge. I said, oh, wait a minute, this is serious, can't smile, but I wanted to.
Our next film is called Legal Eagles, and it stars two of the most popular actors around today, Robert Redford and Deborah Winger, who wind up being co-counsels in the defense of a beautiful, mysterious young woman played by Daryl Hannah from Splash, who has been accused of crimes ranging from theft to murder as part of her effort to get back a painting created by her late father. Naturally, Robert Redford, a divorced parent, is mesmerized by this young woman who worms her way into his apartment.
Personal question?
Huh?
What do you think of me?
Interesting.
The other night when I kissed you, what'd you think of that?
Dangerous.
It's a carefully chosen word.
Well, carefully chosen words are the tools of my profession.
But you know that Redford's heart has to belong to Deborah Winger at some point in the film, and when these two are together, even squabbling, Legal Eagles is at its best.
See you tomorrow.
Are you going to sleep with our client again?
What? What's that got to do with the trial?
It has everything to do with our working relationship. She's a very attractive young girl.
Extremely attractive.
I didn't say extremely. I said just attractive.
Extremely.
She has a nice body.
Oh, sensational body.
I'll pick the adjectives. A good body. Big eyes.
Big, hypnotic.
Big eyes.
Unforgettable.
Logan, are you going to sleep with her again or not?
Eventually, it's time for the trial, where Redford takes the unusual step of telling the jury that even he thinks it's likely that his client is guilty.
Who thinks Chelsea Dearden is guilty?
Objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Logan. Come on, here, don't hold back. I got my hand raised. Look here. I believe that my client murdered Victor Taft in cold blood. Isn't everybody convinced?
Mr. Logan.
Come on, don't hold back. I got my hand up.
I object. Mr. Logan.
You're convinced, aren't you?
Your Honor.
Look, prosecution says she's guilty. Everybody in the jury says she's guilty. Let's save the state of New York a lot of time and money and move directly to sentencing.
Supposed to have a fair.
What?
Isn't she entitled to a fair trial?
Oh, let's give her a fair trial and then convict her.
Now, that's a nicely written scene because he's got something cooking, and we're trying to figure out what it is, as is the jury. And as I said before, when Winger, who is by far the best thing in this movie, she is an extraordinary actress, when she and Redford are together relating, Legal Eagles works just fine. But there's a very, very big problem with this picture that overrides their relationship, and that is simply that the case that they have to solve together is utterly boring and utterly complicated and silly in its violence. Throw that story out. You really don't need the Daryl Hannah character in this story if you think about it. Just have Winger, the lawyer, defend Redford, the client. Then you'd have a movie worth recommending. As it plays now, much too complicated, a waste of two wonderful performances.
The movie is way too top-heavy. It was directed by Ivan Reitman, the same man who made Ghostbusters,
right.
And I think he's still hanging on to some of his Ghostbusters success. There's not one, there's not two, but there are three fires in this movie.
Yes.
One of them, the guy wants to destroy some books, some records, and to do that he's going to blow up an entire warehouse with his entire stock of his entire art gallery. That doesn't make sense. Another time, Daryl Hannah is arrested and charged with murder. She is found by the police in Robert Redford's bed. Now, at that point, I don't think Redford would have been qualified to be her defense attorney. Jury might have been a little bit distracted. Apart from that, you're absolutely right. Deborah Winger and Robert Redford have terrific chemistry in this movie. Deborah Winger, at this point in her career, can do no wrong. Robert Redford does better. I liked him better here than I have in a long time.
He is as loose as a goose in some of these scenes, and maybe you have to credit Reitman for that, who deals with Bill Murray a lot of time in his comedies, because he also did Meatball and Stripes. So give him credit for that. Redford, I hope he is encouraged to go back to romantic comedy like he does here. Did it in Barefoot in the Park 2 decades ago. Butch Cassidy was sort of a male romantic comedy.
The Sting was even a comedy. I think Redford, I like Redford better in comedy than when he plays Noble. I don't like, you know.
It gets too stiff.
Right. But as far as the movie is concerned, you're right. It's an overloaded, confused, too violent mess.
You got it.
So I would recommend Running Scared and Karate Kid 2. You?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Well.
Except Deborah Winger's performance and Redford's in that Legal Eagles.
Okay, so you can do a little selective viewing. Just watch their performances.
Coming up next, twins, and they're not identical. Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger co-star.
Who are you?
I'm Vincent's brother.
We're twins.
Twins, which has a marvelous concept. Why not cast Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger as twins? Why not? I mean, that sounds like a good idea. They supposedly were formed in a genetic experiment to make the ideal baby. Things went about half right. The boys were separated at birth. Schwarzenegger was raised as a perfect, good-hearted specimen on a South Sea island. He goes off in search of his twin, DeVito, who plays a lowlife who steals cars to make ends meet in Los Angeles. And he doesn't realize, DeVito doesn't realize, that he has a twin brother. Here's where Schwarzenegger visits DeVito in jail, intending to bail him out.
I have looked for this...
You gotta talk into the phone, bozo.
Vincent. Dearest Vincent, I know you don't know who I am, but believe me, I came halfway across the world.
Whoa. I got another 6 hours to pay the money back. And tell the Claim brothers that harassing a man who's already in the slammer is beneath even them, all right?
I don't know any Claim brothers. I'm your brother, Julius.
Huh? Come again?
My name is Julius, and I'm your twin brother.
Oh, obviously. The moment I sat down, I thought I was looking into a mirror.
DeVito is obviously more worldly wise than Schwarzenegger, teaching him, for example, how to seduce women by dancing.
I hope nobody's looking in the window. Here, come on, like this. Here you go. Put your feet by my feet. Come on. Let's go. Here. By my feet, not on my feet. Oh, thanks very much.
Sorry, Vincent.
Minor oversight there. Okay, all right, grab my hand. Come on. Yeah. Ease up, tiny bit. Let the blood flow through the fingers.
They are very funny together. This film presents each man with a romantic situation. Here is Schwarzenegger's as he tries to deal with a seduction by actress Kelly Preston.
Which bed should I take?
Either bed will be fine. I always sleep on the floor.
The opening hour of Twins is extremely funny in concept and in execution. The comedy runs downhill a little bit as this film inevitably gives us an action sequence toward the conclusion. I wish the writers would have just left these two talented performers alone with each other more often, but on balance, Twins is mostly a success. Here's the third film where I'm in the middle, and I'm giving this one a pass.
Yeah, I give this one, I'm also giving this one thumbs up. This is the third film about two guys who are buddies, for that matter, if you want to get into that. Where they get the kind of casting of point and counterpoint here. What could be more point-counterpoint than Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, and they are very funny at the beginning. My heart sank a little bit at the end, too, when they got involved with that plot about the contraband industrial espionage.
Why?
Because I thought, why do they always have to have an ending that involves a shootout and a chase? We've talked about this week after week after week after week. Writers give up two-thirds of the way through and cut to the chase. But here, they don't really go all the way. They come back and they...
Something else,
It's not just an action ending, and so that's a good thing.
When they came back to something else, I was pleased. But we ought to just have like a little button that we push, which was no third act, no third act, and then the viewer could get on with the next review.
Our reviews seem to be sometimes week after week the same thing, but then the movies sometimes week after week are the same thing. Coming up next, you've probably seen those billboards that have big pictures of Arnold Schwarzenegger with the line DeVito underneath, and not quite so big pictures of Danny DeVito with the line Schwarzenegger underneath. That's a good way of telling you who the two stars of Twins are. And in the movie, Schwarzenegger and DeVito play twins who were born as part of a eugenics experiment years ago, and decades later each one finds out that he has a brother. In this scene, Schwarzenegger, who's made the discovery first, visits DeVito in prison to break the big news to this little guy.
My name is Julius, and I'm your twin brother.
Oh, obviously.
One thing DeVito finds out right away, they're not going to push you around when you have a big brother like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
This is the most unfriendly acts you're committing. I mean, I don't know what the problem is, but I'm sure it can be resolved without resorting to violence.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
There's another area, though, in which DeVito can give Schwarzenegger a lot of help, and that is in the area of relations between the sexes. Arnold is a very shy, inexperienced virgin, and so DeVito decides to teach him how to dance.
When I really want to romance a girl, I waltz with her.
You mean like Strauss?
Yeah, it turns him into putty in your hands.
Finally, the big night, Kelly Preston falls in love with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who hardly knows what to do about it.
Julius, good night.
Twins is a funny movie, and the big reason for that is Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not that Danny DeVito isn't funny, but we always knew that DeVito was a funny guy. This time, we find out that Schwarzenegger has a sense of humor, too. After all of those movies in which he's the Predator or the Avenger or all of those other guys that he's played with big guns and big muscles, here he is playing against type, playing a gentle, civilized guy, and it's DeVito who's the tough car thief who's always on the hustle. This chemistry works, and I like Twins enough to give it 3 stars. The problem with the sequel is to try to come up with some kind of fresh approach. Ivan Reitman, the man who directed the Ghostbusters picture, says he's toying with the idea of a movie about how Ramis, Aykroyd, and Murray handle success after they become successful Ghostbusters. Whether that works or not, the general rule, I think, is that the original hit picture has the inspiration, and the sequels are almost always pale imitations. Coming up next, the Ghostbusters gang of 4 return to fight slime in New York in Ghostbusters II.
Our next film is Ghostbusters II, the sequel to the best-selling movie comedy of all time, and it's a major disappointment. And what's so surprising is that the film contains little comic energy or invention. It looks as if the filmmakers, particularly the writers, simply didn't try to do anything special. The 4 Ghostbusters reassemble 5 years later to destroy a river of psychoreactive slime that has invaded New York City. Here they talk to the slime.
I have seen some disgusting crime in my time, but you take the case. You're just...
This is what you do with your spare time.
Peter, this is an incredible breakthrough. I mean, what a discovery, a psychoreactive substance. Whatever this stuff is, it responds to human emotional states.
Mood slime.
The story is virtually the same as the original, save for the introduction of a baby, the infant son of Sigourney Weaver, who Bill Murray is still pursuing. She's divorced.
Well, what do you think?
Well, he's ugly. I mean, he's not Elephant Man ugly, but he's not attractive. Was his father ugly?
Don't listen.
Murray is really forced to carry most of the movie with his wisecracks. The film really could have used more byplay between Rick Moranis and Annie Potts, two Ghostbusters assistants, babysitting and romancing.
I think motherhood's a very natural instinct. I like a child myself. Would you?
Now that scene isn't much, but it's appealing because it's at least different from the original picture. The rest of this movie, save for the introduction of the baby, is virtually a carbon copy, with the Ghostbusters battling the slime as well as a 16th century demon hiding in a painting in a New York museum. The Ghostbusters seem tired of what's going on. The special effects seem all too familiar. I know it isn't true, but the movie comes across as if the guys were filming the first draft of a script.
I agree with you completely. This movie is a total disappointment. No thought went into it, no effort went into it, there's no comedy in it, and it's not just a critic sitting there in, you know, I don't believe in reviewing the audience. You and I both think that, you know, we have our own opinions, but I did go to see it in a real movie theater in Michigan with several hundred people, and they sat through the entire movie. They were there to have a good time. There was one laugh. One laugh in 2 hours.
I only laughed once. I laughed at the line about Laura Antonelli. I thought that was funny, but that's a movie related.
That's an in-joke. I mean,
sure
you and I, might know who she is, but
right.
How many Ghostbusters fans necessarily do? This movie is a complete disappointment. This is a demonstration of the bankruptcy of sequels. If you're going to make a sequel, you have to think it through. You don't just want to repeat it. You don't want to do the same thing again. And
I was very surprised because
I was shocked.
I figured, where's the effort?
Yeah.
You know you have a home run going in if you make a decent picture. How cynical to not even try.
Okay, our next category is one that we attack virtually every year on this program, and that's the automatic use of sequels to spin out the life of a hit movie long, long beyond its welcome. Sometimes a sequel can be good. The Godfather Part 2 was good. Sometimes a series can even be good, as the James Bond movies are more or less good. But when a great comedy like Ghostbusters comes along, don't the makers of that film have some obligation to make a sequel that at least tries to live up to the reputation of the original? Ghostbusters 2 was the most shocking sequel of the year because it was the worst. It was as bad as the original film was good. Here's what passed for a joke.
I mean, what a discovery, a psychoreactive substance. Whatever this stuff is, it responds to human emotional states.
Mood slime.
Now, you know, people come out to us all the time with opinions on movies. We were right about this, we were wrong about that. I have yet to meet a single person who liked Ghostbusters 2 at all, and yet the movie grossed more than $100 million. That's a lot of wasted time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a picture like that sort of bludgeons the audience into having to see it. And, of course, it's a commercial decision that makes a picture like that, and that's all they ended up with was money. They certainly didn't end up with entertainment.
But coming up next, Arnold Schwarzenegger stars as a detective turned school teacher in Kindergarten Cop.
I have a headache.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
What's the matter?
I don't know.
What's wrong?
I don't know. I just don't feel so good.
Are you hungry?
And we're looking at Arnold Schwarzenegger and Pamela Reed as California cops on an undercover assignment in the Pacific Northwest in the new movie Kindergarten Cop. Their job to infiltrate a kindergarten class and discover which one of the little tykes has a mother who has absconded with $3 million in drug profits. At first, Pamela Reed plans to teach the class. She's a former school teacher, after all. But after she gets food poisoning, Arnold steps in and takes the assignment. He's used to facing tough customers, but these kids are something else again.
First, I would like to just get to know you. Ha, 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 ha. Quiet.
The best scenes in the movie involve the classroom, where some of the dialogue is priceless. This is my favorite exchange.
Yes.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Okay, we can go.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Kindergarten Cop contains a lot of elements that don't seem like they would work together, but somehow they do. There's the comedy of the classroom, the romance of a relationship between Schwarzenegger and one of the other teachers, and the violence of the showdown between the cops, the bad guy, and his really evil mother, played very effectively by Carol Baker. The movie was directed by Ivan Reitman, who also made Ghostbusters and Twins, and who likes to combine action and comedy in his films. This time, the formula works. But I think one word of warning is necessary. Despite the upbeat advertising for this film and the title Kindergarten Cop and its PG-13 rating and all of that kind of image-building, jolly kind of stuff, a lot of scary and bad things happen to little kids in this movie, and it is not appropriate for smaller children.
Yes, I underline that. In fact, if I had to draw a line arbitrarily, I know I'm going to upset a lot of kids, I'd say about 10. I mean, I think it's pretty high. I know it says PG-13. Take it seriously.
Here's a movie where a guy sets a school on fire, where a father abandons his child and then slaps him in the face. Come on.
That's the problem. That plus the drug caper and all that is why I really think the film splits in two. It's wonderful to see the giant chained up. You know, that's Gulliver's Travels is basically what we're seeing here. You know, he's strapped down to the floor of the
by
kindergarten.
all these kids.
Absolutely, and it is wonderful. But the rest of the picture, I just think it doesn't work for me. I admire him tackling the child abuse scene in the way it's done. I think it's handled well. But why we have to see some of the actions taken toward the kids, I just sat there in the caper. I just felt the film split in two.
In a country where anybody can become president, anybody just did. Kevin Kline, Sigourney Weaver.
You make a nice president, Dave Kovic.
Dave.
Okay, let's get back to work. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito together again, this time as colleagues who have developed a pregnancy drug that Arnold has taken. Your eyes may be drawn to Schwarzenegger in this scene, but DeVito's street-smart persona makes the comedy work, I think.
The convention is tonight?
Yeah, I told you it was tonight.
Oh, Larry, please take me with you.
No. No. You stay home. Get back in bed and just take it easy.
No, Larry, you don't understand.
I do understand. No.
Please, listen to me.
No, it's bad for business.
I'm pregnant and all alone.
Oh, will you stop saying that? Look, you're not pregnant. You gotta think of this as an experiment. I'm gonna think of it like you swallowed a piece of gum. Tiny piece, dentine.
Complicating the pregnancy is that the egg in the equation comes from the laboratory of another researcher, a doctor played by Emma Thompson, who proves to be a fine physical comedian, playing a shy klutz.
Yes, sir.
No, wait.
More predictable are the film's TV sitcom scenes like this one, enlivened again, I think, by Danny DeVito's presence.
I hate my body.
Looking prosperous there.
The pants are a little loose around the waist.
I could take them in.
Better leave room to grow.
Junior is nothing but one scene after another that wants to make us smile. The situations are expected, but the casting makes it work. 3 top-flight actors in a cute, lightweight comedy. Just one point. Why are we getting men playing at being women these days? First with Mrs. Doubtfire and now Junior. In the case of Arnold Schwarzenegger, maybe he's bored playing a tough guy. Maybe a lot of us are bored seeing tough guys in the movies.
Well, I don't know if that's the case, Gene, but I do know that Arnold Schwarzenegger is a comic actor, and that's something that's often overlooked about him. And one of his secrets is he knows exactly who he is and how he can present himself. And in this movie, he wisely plays it very straight. You can never catch him going for a laugh. He's just this earnest guy who finds out he's pregnant and then begins to develop these tender maternal instincts, and he knows that that's intrinsically funny, so by wisely playing it just like that, he makes it work.
Well, it's just interesting to me that in this year of Forrest Gump, here we have, and again with Mrs. Doubtfire, this tender side is coming out and people are embracing it.
Yeah, but Gene, you could also find a trend with 75 movies where people with machine guns blew each other up, so that would be a trend too.
I'm not aware of how popular any of them are. These are cascadingly popular pictures, and Junior will, I'm sure will be.
I think in the case of Junior, we'll wait till it opens to see how cascadingly popular it is. Okay, although I'm sure you're right.
Thanks. Continuing our review of the worst films of the year, it's now time to single out the one actor who starred in two of the year's worst movies. In the double your displeasure category, the loser is Robin Williams, who co-starred with Billy Crystal in Father's Day. Each guy has been lied to by the same woman who says to both, "You are the father of my runaway teenage son. Get him back." Here, Williams does his typical spritzing comic routine, imagining meeting the kid for the first time. and comic bits that might work in Aladdin as the genie, but don't allow Williams to get into a real character here.
Yo, Scott, what's up, Holmes?
You know, Scott, when I was a boy your age...
I'm your papa, your daddy, your père.
Yes, he's Robin Williams and not a character. Father's Day plays like one of Williams' guest appearances on The Tonight Show, not as a movie.
And the proof of that is that Billy Crystal is actually pretty convincing in the film just by playing the script as written. Okay. Harrison Ford and Anne Heche are in for a bumpy landing on a remote island in 6 days, 7 nights. One of 5 new films we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. My colleague Gene Siskel is right on schedule, recovering from his surgery, and he's seen all the movies, and once again will be joining us by telephone. Are you there, Gene?
You bet I am, Roger. I am, as always, Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
Okay, first movie, 6 days, 7 nights, is a lightweight romantic comedy that uses that thunderstorm we just saw in the opening scene as an excuse to crash land a charter pilot and a New York magazine editor on a deserted Pacific island. He's played by Harrison Ford as a free spirit. She's played by Anne Heche as a city dweller who at first expects him to come up with a quick fix.
Aren't you one of those guys?
What guys?
Those guys, you know, those guys with skills?
Skills?
Yeah. You send them out into the wilderness with a pocket knife and a Q-tip and they build you a shopping mall. You can't do that?
No, I can't do that.
She's engaged to be married, and he has an island girlfriend, but of course we know the conventions of the plot absolutely require them to be powerfully attracted to one another.
Some sort of creature has just warmed up my pants. I'm guessing a snake.
Oh. That's bad.
Meanwhile, back on a resort island, her fiancé, played by David Schwimmer, is getting along fine with Ford's girlfriend, played by Jacqueline Obrador.
Listen, so how do we find them? Well, we're going to fly over the water and look out the window.
Ford has warned Heche they may be on the island a long time. Their only hope is a single rescue flare.
What the hell did you do? What the... You wasted our only steam flare? The tunic steam palm tree?
Harrison Ford and Anne Heche have an easy comic rapport with one another, and 6 days, 7 nights is pleasant enough to watch, and sometimes it made me smile. But it's one of those movies you wait for until it turns up on video or TV. There's really nothing special or compelling enough about it that requires you to make a trip to the movie theater. It's all put together out of spare parts from other movies, and the actors don't seem very worked up by the material. Gene?
Well, I'm pretty much in agreement with you, Roger. Maybe I liked it a little bit more because I really liked both lead performances. Here's a compliment to Harrison Ford. He is, right now, probably the best light romantic comic actor we have working for us. There were a couple of moves that he made in this film that reminded me, and here is the compliment, of Cary Grant.
He has a real nice rapport in the film, but on the other hand, I felt that the material wasn't really good enough to deserve Harrison Ford playing it.
Okay, now let's deal with the big buried issue on this movie, which is Anne Heche, of course, has declared herself to be a lesbian, so people have said, gee, are we going to believe her in a romantic role with a man? And I think this is a specious issue.
Well, Gene, I didn't even bring up the fact that this whole controversy has been swirling about her, because for that matter, Harrison Ford is a married man, and yet he's pretending to be in love with this other woman. I mean, that's what actors do. They pretend to be somebody that they're not.
Roger, that is exactly the way I was going to finish my remark, which is, it's a no-brainer for any actor to pretend to be in love with someone they're not in love with. I mean, this is exactly what they do all the time in basically most every movie they make. I watched Anne Heche, by the way, an actress who I have thought and repeatedly have complimented on stealing most every movie she's in. And the reason she does is because she's so smart.
All right, moving down his leg.
What do we do?
We might have to amputate.
Phone call.
Whoa, Doc! Don't take the leg! Don't let him take my leg.
Is there anything else you can do? He thinks he's an athlete.
Wait, Doctor, look.
Sitting for his crotch.
Take it! Take it! Take the leg!
David Duchovny is Bill Murray, Orlando Jones is Dan Aykroyd, and Julianne Moore has the Sigourney Weaver part in Ghostbusters 3. Oh, wait, it's called Evolution,
which I thought was one of the most blatant comedy rip-offs I've ever seen, but I guess Ivan Reitman would have to sue himself since he directed both films. Fans of the 1984 classic about ragtag scientists battling an invasion of ghostly spirits will recognize the nearly scene-by-scene similarities in this clumsy update featuring ragtag scientists battling an invasion of aliens.
Come on, my little wet lobster. Come on, my sexy little crustacean. Come on.
Well, that, of course, mirrors the library scene in Ghostbusters. One segment that doesn't echo that film is a silly episode with Sean William Scott from American Pie as a dork who is practicing to become a fireman.
She's gonna make it! She's gonna make it!
There have been great advances in special effects since 1984, but for every step forward evolution gives us in the magic department, there's a giant leap backward in the script. Besides, what's the point of special effects progress if all you've got to show for it are some of the most disgusting, stomach-churning creatures ever? All of the charm, wit, and warmth of Ghostbusters has been wiped out by a parade of shamelessly mugging actors sharing screen time with big squishy things that exist for no other reason than to gross us out. Evolution is a textbook example of just how much comedy has devolved in the last 15 years.
I'm voting thumbs down, too, although I guess I liked it a little more than you did. I have a real affection for the line where Orlando Jones says, "There's always time for lubricant." I thought that was a classic line.
Oh, but it was in a terribly tasteless, stupid
well,
scene.
now, of course, it had to do with the favorite subject of comedies this spring and summer, which is the lower end of the intestinal tract. I mean, we saw a movie where somebody had his arm stuck up a cow. Then we saw a movie where somebody had his head stuck inside an animal. Now Orlando Jones goes entirely inside the alien. And I'm sitting there wondering, am I a film critic or a proctologist? I mean, what's going on with these movies? Isn't there some other way to get laughs than with excremental humor?
I hope so. Excremental humor.
Yes, that's what it is.
That's the scientific term for it.
That's what it is on family television anyway. I can think of other terms for it.
Well, yeah, I can think of other terms for this whole movie. It's a piece of that. And I'm really surprised that you're even giving it that much of a slight
pass. Well, it had some laughs.
Because,
I like some of
but it's Ghostbusters being redone. I mean, scene by scene.
Yes, I know that. I know that. I'm quite aware of that.
Ghostbusters is available on video and DVD.
And there's also the strange thing that everybody is against the aliens. Why doesn't anybody think, well, gee, they're not really harming anyone too much. Why not be curious about them?
It's a terrible, terrible film.